Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a second to speak about our sponsor, Pith Stem, who we are thrilled to have on this journey with us. As someone who is always looking for ways to improve my healthy hustle, Pith Stem's drop-top desk stood out to me as the best full work-from-home solution on the market. The world of work from home is changing, and a laptop or screen perched on your lap or dining room table isn't enough anymore. It's imperative that we have a solution at home that matches our productivity station that we can have in our office. But of course, homes weren't made to be worked in, and not all of us want a dedicated study. That's why I'm so happy that Pith Stem created this perfect solution. They designed this desk with both the needs of the professional and their home in mind. It's perfect because it allows me to have a full productivity station that suits my needs and helps me get the most out of every minute that I spend at it, not only so I work comfortably, but that I actually enjoy it. And the best thing about Drop-Top, I can close and lock it at the end of the day to keep work and home separate. And it looks awesome on the wall. You can get your Drop-Top desk anywhere in the world from pithandstem.com or just Google Drop-Top and you'll find it pretty quickly.
Thank you so much for listening and watching these episodes. It feels like you're really part of the journey with us. And can I ask you one favor to help us grow even further? You may have noticed that we've been getting some amazing guests on. We've got more listeners than ever. But you can help us continue to give value to you by clicking that subscribe or follow button below. It helps us to show everyone else how well we're doing and therefore give you more value by getting bigger guests and take the podcast on the road. It takes you 2 seconds and it's completely free and it helps us more than you know. Thank you.
So that's a really interesting point. So why don't you believe in the educational system?
Look, I think the whole system is outdated. I think that life requires different knowledge, different mindsets in order to succeed at whatever you need to succeed in. And I didn't have the best experience myself, with the whole entire educational system. So whenever, today, funny enough, whenever I have a word with my wife and then she talks to me about my son, and then she tells me, Ronnie, you know what? Your son got a B, okay? A B for me is pretty good. I'm like, yeah, it's good enough. We don't need that A- or A. Like, as long as he's good, he's socially good. He's smart enough in my own eyes. He is, street smart. I care about street smartness way more than any book. So these are the things that I care about. Maybe because it was a whole mix of my own personal experience with the whole educational system, plus me believing that, the educational system is outdated. They're trying their best, by the way, worldwide. And I think the Scandinavian countries are very advanced, by the way, when it comes to that, in terms of, changing the whole process. And I read somewhere about a school where the school is about just, a warehouse, an open warehouse, no closed rooms or classrooms where the student joins a specific group based on topics that they're interested in.
Yeah, I've seen this.
And I like that. I like whenever, I would love my son to go to the place or to a specific group to speak about what he likes.
Yeah.
Same thing with my daughter. So I'm more of, a person that would actually push them towards, do what you like. That's it.
I completely agree. And I think, so both of us have been through the schooling system, right? So I was just pushed through the schooling system. I went and did a degree and then a master's degree. So I've been through the whole system. And I resent the educational system now because it left so many fundamental holes in my knowledge. Like it puts you down a path where it almost boxes you into, you're very good at this one thing, but you'll never know about this, this, and this.
True.
And it's a bit like, we'll get into this in a minute, but when you talk to other founders, we're constantly looking for answers to all these problems that we should have learned probably in our teenage years at schools. They're fundamentals. They're not actually business specific. They're just like, how do you manage money?
True.
Or how do you solve this problem quickly? And we're never taught that. And that's what frustrates me, because obviously you spend lots of money on education, you spend a lot of time, and you've missed these gaps. And to your point on how education is falling behind, I completely agree. It's like a massive business, right? They are so slow to move because you have to arc and move around and get through governing bodies. And it's the same as education.
A lot of approvals. So.
Exactly. But there's less incentive for us to change the educational system. And, we're both around a lot of founders around the world. And so many of them that I know are taking their kids out of school or just making sure they're doing really, really specific extracurricular activity. Because they know what the holes are in the educational system. And it comes to things like they tend to want you to do team sports. I always was pushed towards team sports, and a lot of entrepreneurs have done individual sports. So they've learned that resilience, that courage, no one's coming to help mentality. And then obviously there's the wealth side and there's the creation, and there's so much to it.
Look, they always ask me, Ronnie, what do we have to do in like whenever they graduate from school? What do you recommend us to do in university? I was like, try to be as specific as possible once you graduate, because the more generic you are, the more you're not going to know where to start. The competition is going to be big enough for you to waste a couple of years in order to land a job or even start your own thing. So I think we're going towards a world where you need to become specific. You need to become the expert in that specific thing. So that's where we go back to the school system, where there are subjects I don't like. Why is it affecting my total grade, right? Why is this specific subject that I don't care about, I don't like at all right, is actually really affecting my grade? Now, I would agree if it's not graded, for instance. Like, okay, you know what? We want to, because it's good to always try new things, but at least don't let this thing affect my total grade. Like, what is it that these 4 or 5, and usually it's not only one subject that you don't like as a student, right? So there's like half of the subjects, it just doesn't mean anything to you. So why are these half of the subjects are actually affecting my total grade, which is affecting, which university I'm supposed to go to, and then this university is affecting could potentially affect my career path, right? So imagine this whole journey. Your career path is getting affected by a couple of subjects that you don't like.
And I was speaking to a founder recently who I think explained this quite well. He said, in the educational system, if you are really good at English and really bad at maths, the educational system will give you a tutor to help you with maths to bring your level up. In the entrepreneurial system, you're bad at maths, good at English, they'll give you a tutor for English, because why wouldn't you get better at the thing you're already good at? That makes so much more sense to me, because you already just lean into the things you're really good at. It's like asking a goldfish to climb a tree. It's not going to happen, right? So on that topic of support and trying to find where we have weaknesses, at what point did you realize you needed support or a support system around you when you were first building your startup in the US?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my first startup, I always had this entrepreneurial mindset about, I want to do something since school. And I always did these little small things, building tools, until I had my official startup about 7-8 years ago. And the reason why I call it official startup is because, it had the official form of a startup with an advisory board. We had funding, a whole team. So it was a journey about, that went for around 7 years. And in my 3rd year, so here it is. When you're a first-time founder, you always believe you will crack things, or enough, or whatever it is, right? You always have that ego that's driving you around, believing that, it's okay, I can manage it. I know enough. I'm going to be able to make it, until you don't. Okay, that's good. That's where you go like, okay, I didn't expect that. So in my 3rd year, so my startup was in the US, and I wanted to be in the US on ground without being in the US, okay, because I was based here and I have kids here. So I'm not just gonna move my whole family to the US just because of, my startup. So this is where I started joining communities in the US, and I didn't leave any kind of community that I didn't join. So I had to be there. I had to network with a lot of people without the needing of me being there physically. And that's why, these communities came into play, and it really helped me out. But when I started joining these communities, this is where I realized the importance of actually speaking with people and the knowledge that I got back from them. And I was like, I actually wish I joined these communities from day one. Why didn't I think of that? Because the amount of costly mistakes that I could have saved could have been huge. So that's where I realized I never knew that this support is important until I started getting it
Yeah.
You know,
And to your point there, it is a lot about entrepreneurial ego. It's
Yeah.
massively. When I've started to refer to this as the entrepreneurial smile. So if I look back at my journey, when I had a job, you're smiling a lot, you're fine. You start a business, you're smiling a lot, you're out, you're networking, you're doing stuff, you're riding the wave. You have your first failure, smile drops a little bit. Have your second, have your third. You're not smiling anymore. And it's not because you're unhappy.
That's true.
It's just not as funny anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you become a lot more serious, you're a lot more worldly. Your persona has changed because you've understood failure's good.
Yeah.
But it's not funny. Like it's become a part of you. And you see that with founders. And if someone's really giggly and funny and they're smiling all their pictures, you're like, you haven't failed yet.
That's true.
It's coming.
That's very true.
Because no one gets it right the first time.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's worth taking a hit on your ego, because it just makes your direction a bit more focused. Because you understand that this is not a joke. This is not easy. You know, a lot of people, especially first-time founders, all right? Now, obviously, second-time founders and so forth, that, you know, they already understand the journey because they already went through it. But first-time founders, they just, you know, they get into it most of the time, because of the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I want to make money. I want to be free. On the contrary, you know, you don't get that free once you become very successful. And once you have a startup that actually made it. It's not about freedom, right? It's not about just making money. It's way deeper than that. And I think, you know, the most people that actually made it are the people that had the courage to change something really big. They didn't accept the status quo. You know, they just didn't like. Maybe life was not catching up with their imagination.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is where you go like, okay, I want to make something about that.
Yeah. And if life doesn't catch up with your imagination, you quit. And if you quit, it's the first time you fail.
So, as a founder, all right, and you know, there's plenty of things that you don't like how it's working, right? And that's where you go like, okay, you know what? I want to fix that thing. I want to make it work the way I like it to work. Now, yes, sometimes you fail because you don't find product market fit. All right, it's just something that is personal, but that's why it's so important to launch extremely quickly in order to understand. But that's a whole different topic. But I think it's just founders that really made it are the founders that really wanted to work on something way bigger than themselves, basically, because that specific topic moves them. There's a lot of things like my wife always tells me, Rony, why don't you work on something easier? I'm like, I just don't care.
It has to be difficult.
It has to be difficult. And I don't know why, but it is what it is, right? It moves me.
It's your calling though, isn't it?
It moves me, right?
It's so true, because if we often say, like, Imagine if you know over the course of your life you're going to make $100 million. Like, it's going to happen, 100%. Yeah. It just maybe take 15 years. Mm-hmm. Would you work hard? Probably not, because you're like, well, it's guaranteed.
That's true.
At some point it's going to happen. And I know what would happen if I did that. I'd probably get fat and I wouldn't work as hard. But because you don't know that's going to happen, you go for it. And you're like, I'm going to change my family's life. Yeah. We're going to leave a legacy. And to your point there, about a month ago, I've just started jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Mm. The number one rule about this is you have to tell as many people as you can that I'm becoming a warrior. I'm joking. But there's 3 real reasons that I wanted to start it. Number one was I was doing a lot of running and I wanted to just do some other kind of cardio. The second one was I wanted to get around people who I think are similar to me. So, we'll get onto community and stuff later, but I wanted some sort of thing where I'd go along and we're in a fitness scenario. They're probably driven. They're probably looking to be out of the house for a bit and just have some sort of competitive activity. And the third one, which I think is the most important one, is I wanted something where I would completely drop my ego or have it forced from me. Because I've played rugby my whole life. I grew up in England, right? So you get into little fights in here and there. But I know I'm around enough fighters that if you go up against someone who's had even 6 months training and fighting, they're going to beat you 100%. Yeah. And so I go into the gym for the first time and I'm like 85 kilos, 6'2", there's 50 kilo guys who are 5'2" and they beat me up in 30 seconds. There's no ego to be had. You have to leave it at the door.
That's right.
And I think that is a really good link to how I'm at the moment looking at business. Yeah. Like the people who have the ego, I don't want to be around. You want to be around the ones who have proof of how good they are. And so in jiu-jitsu, it's the belt, right? I can see you've trained consistently for 6 months or a year or 5 years, and there's respect on that belt because I know what you've done. I know you've committed to it. So you've got courage. And the final point to that really is it's lonely being a founder, right? So we have a team, but I'm very much about the idea that our team is not a family. We're all here working towards the same thing, and we'll give massive respect to each other. And we're very good on, but we're not a family.
When people say, the team is a family.
It's not a family.
It's not a family.
They haven't had experience though. If they say that, they haven't failed.
Yeah, it's not a family.
Exactly. Right? And so my point there is, founder loneliness is a real thing because no one's coming to help. And even if you go and speak to other founders who are above you or beside you, whatever, they can give you advice, but they still don't know exactly which thing's going to work for you. And it's all about how much resilience you've got. And so my question really to you is, what did founder loneliness feel like to you? How did it manifest in your first startup?
So when I started my first startup, basically, I thought, like any other first-time founder, I thought I'm going to be able to achieve much quicker, much more. And that's where the ego comes in, right? And that's the problem, isolation. Ego is still part of the isolation too. It's one of the causes of isolation because you go like, you know what? It's okay. I'm gonna be able to do this. Yeah. I'm gonna be able to achieve this. I have this sorted out. So that's the ego talking here. So therefore, it kind of causes you, to isolate yourself because you believe that you know how to do it until you do it, and then you go like, okay, I didn't expect that. So, so this is where when I first started my startup, I never expected a lot of things to be as hard as I found them to be, such as finding a co-founder.
Ah, okay. Technical co-founder.
A technical co-founder. Yeah. All right. So I wanted a CTO. And usually when people find a CTO, they're either, it's one of their friends, but sometimes you don't have a friend that is technical. So maybe in a community, you might find people in a community. But I didn't realize that it was going to take me as long as it took me because, first of all, it's a serious thing to invite someone to be a co-founder. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I realized myself taking a year and a half trying to choose, someone that is not only capable, but someone that actually, that where we can actually click, right? Because if I don't click with this person, having a co-founder is like really getting married to, to your own partner at the end of the day. You're going to be there together, 24/7 of the business. So they better click with you, in order to at least, enjoy that journey because it's already hard enough. So, so I never expected, for example, it would be that hard to find a co-founder.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other things. I never expected once you launch, you won't have the success that you assume to have as a first-time founder. Because what happens is a lot of people, they come up with an idea, they build this idea, and then they go like, all right, great, you know what? It's time to launch. We might go viral and then it's going to make us millions.
Yeah.
Never.
Because they've perfected it in their mind.
Exactly. Yeah. It never happens.
So that's interesting. So what you're saying is that through difficult times and failures, you found loneliness.
You find loneliness.
Because you realize it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be, and no one's there to help you. Exactly. That's interesting. That's a good way of putting it.
And the thing is, it's not about, sometimes there's no one to help you. Sometimes it's just you not asking for help. This is number one. And number two is sometimes you don't want to concern people. You just don't want to concern them.
You hold it yourself.
You hold it yourself, even if you have a team.
Because you don't want to.
And I'm speaking about the CEO because I was having that conversation with someone who was actually a CMO. He's like, yeah, I love how my team is, and our CEO, our CTO. I'm like, yeah, but have you asked the CEO if he's being able to share everything with you guys? And sometimes they don't share stuff not because they don't want to, not because they want to hurt you. On the contrary, because they don't want to concern you. You know, they want to leave you motivated. So therefore, the CEO tends to hold a lot more, you know, deep inside in terms of like, okay, you know what, I don't need to just, you know, hold my team responsible for that.
And then who's there to help that person?
And then who's there to help that person? That's why mentors, they start coming in the equation. But a lot of people don't understand this.
And really interestingly, a lot of people have been building out, including myself, building out AI mentors. Because you're like, if you're spending, what's that in like dollars, like $2,000-$3,000 for an hour or two with a mentor, you're like, well, like, surely I can just take all the content and teach this person. But it's not necessarily the tactics you're looking for.
No,
it's the philosophies.
That's true.
And so there's an element of loneliness there.
It's a person to speak with.
Exactly. So you're born in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Grew up a little bit to your age of 6 in Turkey, and then moved to UAE.
To Riyadh, actually.
Oh, to Riyadh, okay.
Yeah, to Riyadh, and then after Riyadh to Abu Dhabi, and then Dubai.
Okay. And so you grew up here, though. This is your
most of my life I grew up in the UAE. Yeah, that's where I call home.
So I'm interested in, how did growing up in Dubai impact or influence you to want to build a startup? Because we've only been here for 3 years. And I can already feel like if I had come here 10 years ago, I would have started something much quicker, because it's such an inspirational place. I'm interested in the journey of growing up.
So I always had that mindset about opening something, you know, since I was in school. So I was always that kid that just wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of things back then. And usually what you do in school is you do these parties. All right. I think that's like the whole lowest hanging fruit for someone to do something. And I was so curious about, you know, about innovation in general. So therefore, and because, you know, we're all lucky enough to have YouTube and these mediums in order to open up the world to us. That's why I was so deep in what's happening in the US. Like, if you ask me, I was raised here. I know a lot of things about the UAE, but I know as much about the US.
Oh, okay.
So because of my curiosity drove me to, you know, always be up to date, always talk to people. And because I was part of these communities, and I'm still part of these communities, by the way. So I feel like I'm on ground. And I told one of my investors previously in my previous startup, I was like, you know, I know, like, I'm at a stage where I know more people in the US than here.
Oh, no way.
So because of that chance of me, or just basically opening up that door for myself to join all these communities, and really, look, I didn't leave a single group, community, you know, WhatsApp group, whatever you want to call them. I'm in it.
You learn as much as
I'm
you could.
in it, man. I'm in it.
Were your parents entrepreneurial?
Yes. So my parents, they had shops in malls here, all right, back then. Although my dad, he had his own corporate job as well. Even my mom had her own shop in Saudi Arabia.
Cool.
So you know, I was always interested. Yes, you know, it kind of runs in the family, but the tech part maybe is quite different, right? So I think I was always so pulled towards innovation. I'm like, how, you know, AI blew my mind. I think it blew everyone's mind, right? So I'm always, you know, attracted to that innovation. How can we make life, you know, 10x of our life using technology? And that's what really interests me as a guy. So going back to these communities, right? This is where I realized that, you know, it kind of helped me with isolation, because what started happening is I started speaking with people inside these communities. I'm like, hey, how do you do this? How do I handle this person being, you know, wanting to resign, you know, or being extremely nice and just, you know, can't hit KPIs, being an extreme jerk, whatever it is, all right? So how do you handle these people? How do you know, whatever question that you might have, I started having people inside these communities to ask. So therefore reducing my, you know, my isolation. So it kind of helped me out. It helped me out big time. And because I was, you know, raised here, this is the second where I knew, you I knew what I wanted to do next. I was like, I'm going to do a community in the UAE for founders in the UAE in order to, come closer to each other so they can help out each other, tackle challenges together. That's why our community is structured, unlike any other community. It's not just a WhatsApp group. You don't just go in and honestly, most WhatsApp groups right now became a place to spam, right? But our community is structured. You have your own moderators. You have your own your own tasks to do. All right, it's a process once you join Founder Connects. So you join it, you get matched with another group that we believe are relevant to you, and we believe that they can actually help you in whatever you're looking for. And then you start meeting once a month for 90 minutes virtually with a moderator. And then, you get these updates by email, and we kind of hold you accountable for the next month's session. And every 3 months, we rotate your group so you can get a new perspective. Cool. So there's a whole process. It's not a place where you go in and you go like, all right, what do I do now? Who do I speak with? And things like that.
So this is where I think it's quite interesting, and it is worth it. Let's just split this in half, right? So your startup in the US was a platform to help musicians get booked for events, right? That was that journey.
That's true.
And so what we've got now is Founder Connects, which is effectively solving the problem you had there, which was founder loneliness, accountability.
Yes.
How do I meet people? You've solved that, or you're solving that.
Yep.
You've got the fastest growing founder community
here in the UAE.
In the UAE, yeah. That's huge. It's unreal. And it's an absolute hub for founders and startups here. And so I guess my first question would be on this subject. How do you see the Dubai startup founder scene maturing in relation to other parts of the world?
Look, I think the only part of the world that's quite mature is the US. And Dubai, comes in with the list of other countries after the US because it's quite, Dubai became quite mature here. But I think on a personal level, I think we still have the problem of investors. And unfortunately, without early investors, there's plenty of these early startups or ideas might not happen. Unlike the US, angel investors are, they look for opportunities because they understand the idea of angel investing. They understand the risk, but they understand the rewards that comes with it, right? We don't have this here yet. For one simple reason, our culture, what do they tell us in terms of our parents? The first thing you make some money, I'm not sure about yours, but I'm talking about, the Arab culture. They tell us buy a house.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Pause. Sorry, it's me, Freddie, interrupting myself. I just want to point out how well this guest is doing at building trust with you, the audience. They're adding value, they're giving inspiration, and they're hopefully educating you on a few different areas. You see, we're in a trust recession, and becoming a podcast guest is literally the best way to continue to build trust while so many are struggling. We've built a community of incredible entrepreneurs, all becoming the top most in-demand podcast guests in the world. And if you click some of our links below, not only have we got templates to help you become a top guest, we've also got a community that you can join to get yourself to where you want to be. Now back to the episode.
You have the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. So their mentality, is built on real estate assets. Yeah. Okay. And people with money, they buy real estate, they buy stocks, bonds, and all these assets. They don't invest in risky startups. We don't have that mentality here yet. So that's where I believe that, the government should somehow be involved, all right? Maybe giving some kind of, like a reward system, telling the rich people here, like, hey, you know what? We're not telling you to invest all your money in startups. How about you invest 10% or 20% because that's already big enough if you're.
And then create some sort of safety net if it goes all wrong.
Exactly. So I think this is where, the government should be involved in order to kind of push more towards, or push these rich people more to take this risk. Yeah. And I sat with a lot of, rich families here. They were like, and honestly, they just asked me one very good question. They're like, Rony, why should we invest here if we can invest in the States where there's a much higher potential of this startup becoming a unicorn in the States. How many unicorns do you have in this whole region versus the States? But I think that's where we need to understand how to look at the whole region as a country. If we want to compare ourselves to the States, you can't compare the UAE to the States.
Look at it's 100 times bigger population.
Exactly, the size is quite massive in the States. So if you want to compare apple to apple, then compare the whole region. So I think as Dubai, what I love about Dubai is that they do their best to advance, right? To fix things. We know that there's, we're not the best. They know that, they're not the best. But what I love about their mindset is just about, we know that we're not the best at that, but what can we do in order to make it better? And I think that's what I like.
Yeah, I almost think there should be a higher level of responsibility put on a founder.
Yeah.
So if they're asking for $100,000, $250,000 investment for 10, 20%, if it goes well, then yes, the investor gets a lot of money back. If it goes badly, they've just lost their money, the founder moves on, starts again.
Yeah.
I think there should be, I know there is sometimes, but I think there should be more put on the founder. You can't just say it didn't work after a year. You've got to commit to this. Like maybe you know more than I do on how that works, but I think there's got to be something there.
Yeah, but it's the same thing all around the world, right? Like if that's why it's your responsibility as an investor to know who to invest in at the end of the day, right? That's why you need to understand, like, are these people willing to commit to a couple of years down the line?
Yeah.
And that's why in the US, by the way, these big accelerators, we're talking about Y Combinator, for instance, they can easily tell you, they're so big that, it can still be attractive for you as a founder if they come to you and they tell you, like, hey, we're going to give you the same money, but for 35% instead of 8. Or I think now they're taking 5, if I'm not mistaken. But right now they take 8 or 5. But I still believe that a founder would accept them if they still come because they're Y Combinator and tell you, you know what, we need 35% of your company.
Yeah.
You would still accept it.
Yeah, because you've got such a high chance of it working there.
Exactly. But why they don't do it, all right, because they know if they take 30 or 35%, you're probably going to give up after a year. You're going to look at yourself, you're going to go like,
what's the point?
You know what? I don't have this much, shares anymore. So you're not going to be that excited anymore. So therefore, you're just probably going to give it up. So you end up failing them too.
And isn't it interesting that Y Combinator and loads of other ones, but let's use the Y Combinator example. They have a really strict way of how you have to be a founder, right? So it's got to be co-founders.
Yeah.
One technical, one non-technical.
I used to hate that, by the way, but now
I really?
And
also they like you to, I think Dragon's Den is like Shark Tank, but in the UK. It's not Y Combinator level, but they're still investors. They like you to have a personal brand because they're like, you can test the market so quickly. So there's little things that you can do for yourself to make yourself a higher likelihood of success, but also success in just getting investment. And I'm presuming Y Combinator do a lot of work on making you not feel lonely as a founder, like support. You can ring people, which is effectively what you're bringing to the UAE.
That's one thing, right? But look, the thing is, when I was a solo founder, I hated these requirements because I'm like, why are you putting us outside that equation, right? Like, it's not an easy thing to find a co-founder. All right, great. Like, if you have a co-founder, great. It just happened for you. Great for you. But a lot of people don't have, they don't start with a co-founder. So I always hated that thought of, like, why are you just, keeping us out of this equation? Until I became a second-time founder and a third-time founder, I understood the value of having these, requirements.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, of course. It's going to make it, it's going to higher your chances of success if you have a co-founder, and especially a good one. Of course, it's going to higher your chances your chances of success if you're a second-time founder, instead of a first-time. And a lot of, because I stumbled on a lot of investors, and like, we only invest in second-time founders. I'm like, really?
Yeah. And what's funny is that, as your example there of you were like, this is so unfair when you were your first time founder. But what they're doing is they're just making sure that you've done the hard work and probably failed
true.
before they even get to you. That's the only issue. That's why it makes it feel bad for us. It's like, oh God, I've got to do all this stuff.
That's why, honestly, if you're a student or just graduated from university, if you have something on your mind, try it ASAP, because I think you need a failure in your life.
100%.
It will help you out on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
As a person, as at least telling people, you know what, I already know the drill.
Yeah.
Right? It will help you out.
So I completely agree. Before we started talking, or the cameras came on, I told you about how I've been burnt in the past by communities, and I'm not a massive fan of entrepreneurial communities. I love being part of entrepreneurial networks, on networking trips, but I'm very specific on who I will take advice from, just because I clearly joined the wrong communities when I first started my business, and therefore wasted a lot of time, a lot of money listening to the wrong people. And I know that you're building something which is completely different to that, and effectively cutting through all of that and saying, don't use this, use that, which is fantastic. And so I guess my question is, how do you make sure when you're taking on advice or putting questions into networking or business groups, how do you know who to listen to, and how do you sift through the noise of everyone's got an opinion, but how do you know which one to listen to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So look, sometimes it's good to just put or decide on few people that you want to listen to. This person, this person, this person. You don't have to listen to everyone, by the way. Okay, but as long as you want to, know that these are the people. In the cases of if you're going to an event, then you might not know who these people are, right? Because you're just meeting strangers. So I think as a founder, it's very important to listen. That's number one. But you just don't have to listen to everyone. But that's where, experience comes in as well, and plays a very important role. As a second-time founder, you know how to manage these emotions and moments much better than you being a first-time founder. As a first-time founder, you'll probably get lost if you tend to listen to a lot of people. But the most important part is ask the right people as well. Don't ask your father if your father is not, if you're building something in AI and your father has nothing to do with AI. He's not the right person. Even if your father has an empire or your mother has an empire, just you're building something that they have nothing to do with.
That's actually an amazing point, because most people will just go, that person's made millions of dollars, let me ask them, but they don't know.
They don't know. There's a lot of successful people. They just in most cases they might not know what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to ask the right people around you, and you can eventually. When it comes to networking or being part of communities, I don't use it. Especially whenever we have events, okay? I don't use it just to listen. I use it more to network, unless we're part of these founder squads that I told you about, the 90 minutes virtual. Because these 90 minutes virtual masterminds, which we call founder squads, they're made for that specific purpose. And because you're matched, we have a process and a system, because you're matched with this group, then eventually whatever you're going to ask, someone else is going to give you a good answer.
Yeah.
All right?
So you've pre-vetted them all before they come in.
Oh, yeah. You can't join our community without having either a call with one of our teams, or, we just launched an AI, which you can actually discuss, because we realized that a lot of people just want to access the community right now, but we still need to vet you. So we're training an AI in order to vet you, okay? And we have both options. We're like, okay, if you really can't wait for a call, have a word with our AI, or you can just book a call with us. So you don't just pay an access.
No. Did one of your members build the AI for you?
No, I actually built it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. I'm not a technical person, so sorry. I use a tool, all right, that offers me this capability. So I didn't build it in terms of coded it.
Yeah.
So I started training this specific tool basically to the knowledge that we kind of have.
Yeah.
And it's insane, the tools that are out there, how much you can do as a non-tech founder.
Yeah.
But technical people are still very important.
100%.
Very,
Did
very
you see Bill Gates came out with a list of jobs this week that he thinks will still be around in 10 years and he would guarantee them?
Yeah.
There's one that's like it's an energy expert or someone who works in the energy sector, because you're still going to need that kind of person.
Yep.
AI coder. I can't remember. I actually can't remember the third one, but I think the AI and coding was really interesting, because I thought we've already got Replit, we've got loads of systems that can build AI for
That's
you.
true. That's true.
But his point is, even in 10 years, you'll still need someone who can build on that.
That's true.
There's so much to be done, right?
To make it better.
Exactly. So I've got a question for you around connection, right? Because you're able to connect people who are very relevant, hyper relevant to each other and solve problems. What's the difference to you between connection and accountability?
Two different things. Two very total different things, right? Connection is simply, a connection can be made anywhere to anyone. But accountability, all right, it's all about you. It's all about, moving your own needle. So therefore, when it comes to holding yourself accountable, or even maybe someone else around you holding you accountable, you're moving something.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're going from point B to point C. But if you're making any other connections, all right, like it really depends on the connection that you're actually making. And a lot of people, so let me tell you this story, right? Because it's very relevant for what I'm about to say. So there's a business, I met a founder in New York. Okay. What he does is he invites super VIPs for dinner, 3-4 VIPs, okay, super VIPs. And he tells them, you're invited for dinner with other super VIPs, but these are the conditions. And the conditions are, you're not allowed to share what you're doing in terms of work, business, anything related to that. And once we're done dinner, you have to wash the dishes with me. So, all right. So it created super, they became super curious that they actually started accepting this invite. But the reason why he asked them not to share their businesses is because he wanted to create real connections instead of connections that are masked with a specific agenda of your, of why you wanted to make that certain connection, right?
I love that, because the worst question someone can ask you when you meet them is, what do you do?
Exactly.
I hate that question.
Exactly, right? So once these real connections happen, no matter what, that there's a real connection. But when you tend to go to huge events, it becomes an ad hoc connection. Like, all right, is this connection worth my time or not? Is it going to be, is it going to be transformed into something or not? And then you tend to drop these connections that don't, right? I don't really call these connections. It's just business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly. And the reason I asked that question about accountability versus connections is because I think most people, not most people, a lot of people confuse them.
Yep.
They think that by connecting to lots of people, they're being held accountable. They've ticked a box of, I'm now accountable to these people, and that doesn't work like that. Because everyone's thinking about themselves, right? Even though we're building connections and networks, whatever, you're still thinking about yourself. You're here for a reason. Yeah. And I think there's a real blur, I guess, between meeting people for a reason. And I really like your point there about it doesn't actually matter what they do. Yeah. And then the other part is accountability, which is sort of the difference between, which is kind of what you're merging, right? You've got the connections, but you've also got the accountability and the mentorship, which comes together. Yeah. Most groups don't do that.
That's why, it's important to put a process in place if you want to have a good community. So for those who are actually, thinking of building a community, just make sure you put a process. Don't just open up space and say, this space, you're free to do whatever you want to do in it. Meet people and things like that. Yeah. No, as soon as I treat my community as a startup.
Exactly.
A startup, I need to put rules for it. I need to put, a mission for it. I need to put a vision for it, and all these things.
Yeah, I love that. You've spoken before about vision blindness. Yeah. You've been blinded by your vision. And I'm really interested in what does that look like in real time? Like, how did that manifest? If someone listening to this and they're going to hear you now, I think a lot of people are going to go, oh, that's me. But I want you to explain how they know that.
So here's what happens. when you're a first-time founder, you go like, all right, I have a great idea. And you start looking for, if you're not a technical person, you start looking for technical people to build it for you. So you either go on these freelance marketplaces, platforms in order to find someone, or you hire a specific agency, which I hate doing. My way is just, either speak with someone that you trust that is a good CTO, and then, they can give you the advice, or find yourself a CTO.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that, if you, assuming you don't have a CTO, you don't have a co-founder, you would hire a freelancer in a lot of these cases, and then this freelancer would actually promise you to build it in 6 months, and then in 6 months you realize that this 6 months is actually taking a year. But that was before AI. Maybe AI now is helping out with that timeline. So you go in for a whole year, and you start building things, and then you start realizing these things are not working the way you expect it to work. And while you're thinking of these things, these ideas start growing in your mind, right? So you go like, because it's your first time, you go like, nice, you know what? I love this feature. Let me add it on top of all the features that I have. So you go back to your freelancer, you tell them, hey, by the way, add this feature for me. So this happens, quite regularly. So you start, going to bed, you wake up with another great idea. So you give it back to your freelancer. You go like, hey, add this feature right now. So the freelancer is left with like 30 new features to add within these, 3-4 months. And then these 30 new features will probably take another year to implement them. And then you launch and everything is not working properly, or if it works properly, it just doesn't find product market fit. Okay, because what you ended up doing is building, something really big for the first day of launch. You're not building an MVP. And what surprises me is that even senior people in corporate jobs, all right, still fall for this mistake. So I've spoken to people, very high position in Meta and all these tech companies, Microsoft, Cisco, and all these, and they still do this mistake. I'm like, I at least expected you to know. All right. So it's not about experience anymore. A corporate thing and the startup world is two different things. You just have to know it. So what happens is you become blinded by your vision. Things start growing so much in your head that you start building whatever is in your head. So and because of human nature, you get excited. You go like, okay, you know what? Let's do this and let's do that. And it's the wrong thing to do, because you can't launch a platform that is that big. The only reason why a platform would work is because it's so simple. It's so simple. It's just fixing one thing. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's why it works out, because this is why MVP is so important. Minimum viable product, for those that don't know what MVP stands for. It's just, it's so important to understand the concept of starting with something really small. People don't, especially first-time founders, right? They're not attracted by launching something small.
No, of course not, because you think you're going to go to the moon.
Exactly, right? So they're not attracted to that specific concept. So therefore, they end up building something way bigger than they're supposed to.
When I used to work in corporate, I used to work in product.
Yeah.
And so
you were a product guy.
Product manager, yeah.
Nice.
In my last role, and my old boss, who's like, I don't know, 10 years older than me, and he taught me such a cool way for us to build products. So the business it's the world's largest digital publisher. So we had like 200 websites doing 500 million monthly views with no ads, just organic SEO, storytelling, and it's basically reviews of tech.
Nice.
And we had this affiliate software that we built, and we would run it, and it made billions a year, and we then white label it all out. But we would go in and be like, okay, we need to change some buttons, we need to change this, and we'd constantly try and iterate to make more money. And he, you go through uni and you think, okay, we're going to make this, I'm going to draw up this, I get the UX designer to make it look really cool. He was like, this is how we create a new product. And he would get this piece of paper out, draw what he thought it should look like really, really badly. put it in front of a user and go, okay, this is a website. This is what you're trying to do. Can you just click the button that you would go for? And they'd go like that and literally like click, like push the piece of paper. He'd then take that piece of paper away, and on the next page, he'd then quickly draw what he thinks the next page looks like. And they go, okay, I'd click that. And he was like, why would you click that button? And then they're like, well, because you put that color that he literally would write like, this button is blue. He'd be like, well, that one's blue and it says check price over $5.99. And he's like, okay, so we've built nothing, but I've got exact feedback. Then we could take it to the team and they'd build it in a day for $1,000. Then we'd put it out to a 500 focus group and we'd get that to be validated. Yeah. And I just thought that was such a good way of doing it, because you don't even need an MVP really. You just need like, what would someone do? And it's about perfecting it in the market, not your mind, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, sell your product before you even have a build.
Sell your product, build that wait list.
Yeah, like even if this, like they always ask me the follow up question that comes usually whenever I say this. They always tell me like, yeah, but how can I take money for something that probably is going to take another 8 months for me to build? I'm like, tell them. Yeah. If they're interested to pay you, and then you just be clear with them. Tell them, I can take that money and it's going to be discounted. Yeah. It's going to be, you're going to get a crazy discount because I'm taking that money right now.
And they're a founding member. It's exciting.
Exactly. Right. So, but it's going to probably take around 5 months for you to get access to whatever I'm trying to sell you. Yeah. So I'm like, just try to sell it first. See if there are people that are willing to pay you before you build that product.
So what about if someone's not building a product, but they are listening to this and they are stuck with the vision that it's really resonated with them. Yeah. They're going, my vision is to build this $1 million a year, whatever, service business. Yeah. How do they get unstuck? What is the thing they can do today to go away and move the needle forward without having to reinvent the wheel?
So once you have an idea, speak immediately with your assumed users.
Okay.
As soon as you can.
Just go and speak to someone.
Just go speak to them.
Explain your vision.
Explain your vision. Try to sell the product, right? Try to get them on board on your wait list. Because imagine having like 1,000 people on your wait list, and then once you launch, instantly you have, people paying you. And that's how these startups, by the way, whenever they launch and they go like, hey, yeah, we've done like maybe $5 million and we just launched. Because they've been working for a couple of years to build that waitlist. It's not because they just did it in one day.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's what I hate. I hate people loves glamorizing success stories. And it's so that's not the reality. The reality is that these people, these founders, they went through sleepless nights. They went through near-death pivots. They went through, hardships, losing people along the way in terms of, their own team, in order to get whatever they want to get. Yeah. Right. So these people were actually working, in the invisible period when no one, knew about them. And that's where basically, I think the real story should be written.
Yeah. And this is why I completely agree with what you're saying about you've got to have people around you that you can really trust, because I believe that to build something great, you have to have delusional confidence in yourself. Yeah. But you mustn't have delusional confidence in the thing that you're building. Yeah. Which is difficult, because obviously if you're like, I can do this, and you're building something, you have to believe that it's the right thing. But if you've got delusional confidence in the thing you're building, you won't stop if it is wrong, and you won't pivot. You need the confidence in yourself to go, okay, if someone that I trust in that community network tells me this is wrong, or I should move slightly or pivot, that there's nothing more valuable than that, I think.
See, in the life of ChatGPT and these infinite generative AIs, the only thing that you can do is, because it creates that assumption of, or it's very tempting because you have all these AIs. It tempts you to find a shortcut to build a business, right? But the only thing that you can do is you can't, ask for any AI for clarity, and you can't automate courage.
Oh, I like that.
So these are the only two things that like AI can't help you in that. So you need courage in order to push forward, to push as hard as possible during this invisible time where you're actually working and no one knows about you yet.
I agree. Because ChatGPT, the worst thing, well, most AIs, the worst thing about them is you put any idea in there and it'll go, great idea.
Yeah.
Really good. And then you go, no, give me an honest opinion. And it goes, oh, terrible idea. And you're like, what's the reality?
Yeah.
What would you say is, what kind of feedback? Yeah, I think that is relevant. What kind of feedback do you think shifts founders' thinking the most? Because obviously there's so many different kinds of feedback you can get, positive, negative, whatever, someone close to you, someone further away, but not all of it moves your thinking as a founder.
Yeah, so I think most of the time it's either yourself that you're shifting your own, your own mindset, or basically the pressure of these people that you chose to speak with, right? Remember when I just told you that you just choose a couple of people to listen to, but in most cases it's yourself. You're the only one that can change your own mindset.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. I don't think anyway you should let your mindset to be changed easily too, right? Like you need to stick to your guts in a lot of these cases. And that's why it's so important to know who to ask.
Yeah.
It's so important to know, when to pivot to. And remember, like, sticking to your own guts is a cool thing to say, but sometimes, it backfires. You need to know when to find the right balance.
Exactly, and that is why it is a lonely road, isn't it? Because your ego is constantly taking a battering. No one's ever going to go, this is amazing every day. You've got to have that resilience to get over that loneliness and find ways out of it, like you've mentioned. What do you think is a belief about startup life that you have had to completely unlearn on your own journey, but also being around so many other founders?
The corporate world, man, totally different. Totally different. I the funniest thing that I passed through is, corporate people giving their own advice to founders. That's the funniest thing. One, you don't know the journey. Yes, sometimes you might have some knowledge, but you don't know anything. It's two different worlds. You haven't went through sleepless nights in the corporate world, all right? Unless your boss is, makes you go through that. But you don't go through. You haven't went close enough to what a founders go through, the anxieties, the sleepless nights, the paying a team, because if you can't pay a team, this team has kids as well. A couple of your team members, they have kids. There's plenty of things on your head that you need to think about, and if you fail, that's your thing. That's not a strategy in this bigger company.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, if you fail, it's your thing. It's upon you, to succeed or not. And so there are two different things, and that's where these corporate people, they even if you're having a conversation on a table, and I've seen a lot of them, by the way, they go like, yeah, but you should do this. I'm like, who are you, to just tell people, your advice. In a way, you're pushing your advice on them, right? Yeah. So because there are a lot of people with this ego thinking, that they can do it, like, and you will find and bump into these people that they go like, if I'm gonna open a startup, I'm sure it's gonna work out. All right, you still find these people. So the corporate world is so different from the startup world.
Yeah, and it's good. Different. It's good. I think this conversation has been good at not glamorizing or glorifying entrepreneurship, because I think there's too much of that in the mainstream media.
That's true.
It's easy. You jump in, you'll make loads of money and you'll be fine. Yeah, it's actually really lonely, very difficult, and it's going to stop you from smiling. Yeah, probably for quite a long time.
I know I know a lot of smart people that had a great job, and they just took the risk of taking the chance to open their own startups. And now they're finding a way to go back to the corporate job.
Yeah, I bet they are.
Because they realize that, you know what, this is not what we expected. No. It's not how hard, it is harder than we thought, basically. So a lot of people, and it's okay. It's fun, right? It's cool to try.
Yeah.
And it's good to know that, you know what, no, it's not for me.
Yeah. What would your advice be to someone who's finding their entrepreneurial journey incredibly lonely?
Join communities, really. That's something that helped me out, all right? Another thing is have mentors, advisors. This is another
People
good
that have
thing.
been where you've been, where you're going.
Exactly. Now, the reason why I like communities more is because the people that you'll be meeting are people that are actually going through the same journey that you're going through. Sometimes when it comes to advisors, they're in a way better position than you are, and sometimes they kind of forget the information that they've done 10 years ago. These little details about cold email outreach, SEO, and all these stuff. But being around a founder that's actually going through it right now, it'll just give you a chance to just share things together.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Rony, it's been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me here.
It's been awesome.
Really. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to that episode. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed speaking to that guest. If you scroll down now, you will find a link to our Healthy Hustle newsletter. There's more than 10,000 people receiving the newsletter every week, and it helps break down how to become a top podcast guest. It will also break down exactly what this guest that you've just listened to did to create such a great episode that you've just listened to. I hope it's helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.